There are just some things that you need to understand about what socialists think. I don't know if Econoboi is being like an unwitting like fool that's being drug along, or I don't think he doesn't come off to me as like a mask on person. Actually, anything good that came from a capitalist society was actually because of socialists, and anything bad that came was because of the capitalism. Okay, this is going to come up because I think I have a thing scheduled to. Is it tomorrow? We have a debate tomorrow, I think, with Econoboi and Pisco. One of the things that I'm going to have zero tolerance on this. One of the things that's incredibly annoying is there can't be this pass given to people because they have like the socialist thing. Like just because there are nice socialists means that we can just call ourselves socialists and then also like give pass to the other unhinged socialists. The amount of tolerance that people are having for like people that are directly supporting terrorists or directly advocating for terrorism or directly cheering on terrorism like Hassan, I just think that that's like an unhinged position to take up. I took some notes on Econoboi and Pisco's VODs from last night. Do you want me to send them to you somewhere? Or you can just send me the VOD, I guess. Destiny, what about Lonerbox? I think... I don't know. My guess is Lonerbox doesn't like me because he was dating Pixie when everything came down. I don't know. I don't really care. I mean, I don't have any ill will or I don't harbor any resentment towards Lonerbox. It's his shit. I don't think he's like brain broken on the socialist shit. But I don't know. It is what it is. Destiny, no, he isn't a socialist. Okay, so Lonerbox is like one of the few people I think. Oh, people said he stopped calling himself socialist ages ago. I don't have to guess like where his opinion is on people like Hassan. I would be surprised if Lonerbox would say like we need to build a bridge with people like Hassan, because I just don't see, because Hassan just does so much crazy and unhinged shit. I just can't see that. I also just need people to understand there are just some things that you need to understand about what socialists think, because they have all the pieces there, but they won't connect them all for you. And then they dance around like hard questions using nice language sometimes. So like, for example, socialists believe that capitalists, through ways like lobbying or advertising, they'll call it manufactured consent, that any type of large wealth disparity in society can necessarily be leveraged by capitalists to brainwash the masses into believing that capitalism is good and socialism is bad. They'll use phrases like white terror, Hassan said, or they'll use phrases, like McCarthyism, and trying to weed out communists, or they'll bring up assassinations in the past by the CIA, or legitimately, crazy shit we did during the Cold War era, and they'll say this is how capitalists control regimes. Now, from there, they'll say that they want to establish a socialist state. But then when you ask them, like, well, what would you do with capitalists or liberal parties in your state? They always kind of give these kind of wishy-washy answers where they'll say things like, oh, like we should have freedom, but like we should be careful about, like what we allow, or like we should just criminalize violent speech or something. They always give kind of like these weird answers. However, it's not a strong enough refutation of the claim that like I think you would lock people in ideologically opposed parties in prison, and it's not a strong enough support for the idea that maybe society should have multiple ways to approach, like economies. Like if you want to have some private ownership in society, is that really a bad thing? It feels kind of vague, I guess. We'll see. I can respond more specifically here. But like when I quoted Econoboi and I asked him, I'm like, hey, I'm just curious, would you ban private parties or like criminalize this shit or whatever? And his answer is like, well, I don't like people like in my chat were trying to say like, well, his answer was actually okay. Would you ban all forms of private ownership in your ideal society and outlaw parties that support private ownership? Like when the response is, practically, I think there's an upper limit on public ownership, but I think we can go even further than Norway and maintain economic growth. However, I think complete social ownership is ideal. That means that the answer is yes. Like you are banning private ownership, right? Which means that all forms of private ownership. So if I want to open a business, like I cannot hire an employee. That would be an illegal thing, I'm pretty sure, in his society. Or if he tries to say it's not illegal, he's going to do some very weird like Voshism to say like, well, I'm actually in favor of, what was it called? Anarcho-syndacticalism, or some way to have co-ops where you can have employees. Like it's always like some weird, like it's like, no, like you would ban anybody that wanted to hire an employee. Like all forms of private investment would be banned. Because if complete social ownership is what the goal is, that means that all the means of production and everything are owned by either the government or the employees. And anytime you want to start a new business or create a new product or do anything, either the government is directing it or some board of employees is, choosing it or whatever. Pisco says, Hassan or Trump, who are you voting for if you had to pick? If the former ever did win, you'd have 6 months of chaos, ending with Ban Empanadas as the general secretary, and Hassan would be thrown in the gulag right next to Ethan. Okay, true. In a socialist world, can private ownership not exist? No. It cannot exist. Socialists will lie to you and tell you that maybe some forms can exist, but no, it cannot exist. In a socialist world, private ownership can't exist for two key reasons. One is because they believe that all forms of employment are necessarily immoral, because remember, for a private owner to make money means that he's basically stealing surplus value from the employee. The only way that a private owner can make money as not a laborer is for somebody underneath him to be being exploited by the employment-employee model. Number one. And number two, that necessarily creates a division between classes where the wealthy person will have more money because they're extracting labor value from the laborer, and they're going to use that increased wealth disparity to manipulate through either lobbying or some other form of manufactured consent to manipulate the political system to effect their outcomes. So a true socialist will never be okay with any sort of capitalism, any sort of private existence in their economy, because it would necessarily lead to the destruction of the economy, because all private capital owners would use that to further their goals of capitalism and private ownership or whatever. Because that's, remember, for a lot of these people, the only reason why the Soviet Union or socialist utopias have failed in the past is because of liberalism, because of capitalist economies like the United States. That's their argument. Isn't Econoboi's argument just that the government would buy large portions of successful business, but those businesses would run on their own? Savorily, can you please explain to me, what does it mean? You just said, can you explain why you just said large portions of successful business, but he said complete social ownership is ideal? Savorily, can you explain to me why you said the government would buy large portions of successful businesses, implying not all businesses, and they would just buy large portions of it. But what does he mean when he says, why did he say the term complete social ownership? I feel like people with the socialism shit also do the same thing that they do with Donald Trump, where they take like whatever they want to read into a thing, and then they just read into the thing. And it like, why not just go with what they're actually saying? Like, why not just look at what is actually being said? Saverly says, I can't, I'm a retard. Okay, I love you. An aspirational goal, but that in practice, it would not be possible. He argued that with Hutch. Okay, but that's if that's the aspirational goal, that's not a good aspirational goal. That'd be like saying, you understand that the final solution was an aspirational goal of Hitler. The first thing they tried to do was deport all the Jews, and then they tried to like basically put them in labor camps or whatever, or ship them around to different countries, especially ones that they'd taken over, and then eventually they got to killing them all, right? Like that. I don't know why you would be okay with an aspirational goal that is diametrically opposed to your core liberal values, as long as they acknowledge it's only aspirational and in practice they can never get there. That's such a stupid thing to say. That's so stupid. I don't know why you would never accept that for any other radical extremist ideology. He said it's ideal, not mandatory. Or what am I missing? Can't you have a moderate socialist, at least on paper? No, because socialists believe that capitalists are their enemies. They're diametrically opposed ideologically. Socialists and capitalists cannot exist. Well, correction. In a capitalist system, you actually can incorporate socialists because, for instance, people can have cooperatively owned business or whatever. But in a socialist-run system, they believe that capitalists are fundamentally evil, that transaction of employer-employee is a fundamentally evil thing, and that capitalists will always abuse the class divide to create a society where the wealthy can dominate the poor class, that the class ownership and extraction model from labor surplus value, that's always going to arise in a capitalist setting. So no, socialists and capitalists cannot exist. They can exist together kind of in a capitalist run system. They cannot exist together in a socialist run system. That's why in all the socialist countries, private ownership is banned or like super under attack, or why you have these like monoparty states like Vietnam or China or Russia. Like they don't allow, there's a reason why they don't allow the other parties to exist and to come up and like fight against them or have a chance like politically. They can't have it. It's contradictory to the model. You're saying a bunch of things that Econoboi never actually said. He doesn't have to say them though, but that's the issue. Every other socialist who knows anything about socialism will acknowledge all of these things, either implicitly or they'll just explicitly acknowledge it. That's why I don't know if Econoboi is being like an unwitting like fool, that's being drug along to do like the whole like, oh, well, I'm a socialist now. Or I don't think he doesn't come off to me as like a mask on person. But I don't like, there's also this very weird, like, no true Scotsman game that's played with liberalism and capitalism as well, where people will look at these successful things that come from capitalist societies and they'll go, actually, anything good that came from a capitalist society was actually because of socialists, and anything bad that came was because of the capitalism. Like, you hear these things, oh, you know, like the New Deal, and you know, like minimum wage, and like the healthcare that we do have, like anything good, that was all because of socialists. However, that the bad stuff that comes, all of that is just because of capitalists. And it's like, oh, okay, well, me, I guess, Jesus. Like, so in this capitalist society, all the good things are only because of socialism, but in the socialist societies, they never figured any of these things out. Like, isn't that kind of weird how that worked out?
I wanted to pin in the chat a comment about my full model, because people have been, I think, kind of asking me about all these specifics, and I'm free, you know, I'm fine to give specifics about my socialist model or whatever, but
Destiny, but is the European idea of socialism the same as in America? I feel like over here socialism is pretty much just some welfare and support for public. Yeah, that's like the weird thing is that I think in Europe, I think for a lot of younger people, I think in Europe socialism actually is just like when the government does more stuff. But then it's very weird because like young people and even like middle-aged people, I think in Europe will broadly say that, which is strange because it felt like a dumb American idea. But then in America, you have like actual like the crazy socialists, like people like Hassan, who do want to be like subversive to the current system and to flip stuff into some crazy vanguard party like Marxist-Leninist shit. But then you have other people who will like, I guess like at the end of the day, if I felt like people like Econoboi have the same positions as like Lonerbox, where it's like very obvious that Lonerbox is not supportive of people like Hassan, then I'm a little bit warmer to like, okay, fine, you want to do, you know, like your social welfare funds or, you know, whatever type of social ownership that allows the state to take advantage of growth in private companies, which I think is actually really good. We should all feel somewhat invested in, the success of these companies. And right now you don't. If Facebook or Tesla or whatever the fuck else has a huge, you know, stock earning quarter, like you don't feel like you've benefited as an American. And I think having ways to feel that benefit is important. But like, when you're also like giving a free pass to the MLs, then I'm like, okay, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't get that. That can't be the case. Like these people make you look crazy. Are you not aware of that?
Obviously it's a little bit, you know, it's hard to give an in-depth explanation of everything about my model in like the form of a single comment when I've already written it down before. I don't know. I just felt like I felt like I keep getting misrepresented. But anyway, so yeah, to repeat myself, you've gone and made me tired, guys. You've gone and made me tired. So let's kind of explain where I'm coming from on this, and let's kind of...
Destiny, what is the correct label for someone who just wants the government to do more stuff? We call those people, they can be liberals and you can be capitalist. I don't know why I don't know where this obsession comes from that they have to identify as something totally different, right? Like we talk about issues with the Democratic Party's labeling and the Democratic Party's branding. And it's like, well, anybody that wants to empower the state, like the abundance guys, right? Oh, now the abundance guys also get unhingedly fucking attacked by all of these lefties too. I don't know why or whatever, because they're not full on socialists or whatever. But like liberals and capitalists can empower the state to do way more positive shit. You don't need like socialism to do that. You can just empower the state in our current like mode of operation. The United States didn't become socialist when we, you know, had New Deal programs that were being implemented across the country. We didn't need socialism or to become socialist to do that. We didn't need socialism for, you know, the Affordable Care Act. We didn't need socialism for, you know, like minimum wage. It's just this weird no true Scotsmaning of all capitalist stuff, and anything good that comes from capitalism can't be, you know, given, like liberal societies or capitalism can't be given credit for it. I just think it's just bizarro.
Kind of explain why I'm even having this stream in the first place, and hopefully it'll all make sense. Okay, Tallybots, that Talia, yes, that Talia. She tweeted based, and it was to this clip. Liberalism? It was to this clip.
Also, to be clear, this Talia person is cringe as fuck, okay? I don't support them. Okay, I don't condone them. This person is literally a single issue voter on trans stuff. Okay, that if you're wondering where the Talia person's political views come from, they literally are fully and completely informed by her obsession with trans people. All she needs is a British accent, and she'll be good to go as a TERF.